What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and today continues on to the 13 days of Halloween as we talk about all things spooky that revolve around the world of Warhammer 40k. Today I'm going to be covering a fear that I'm pretty sure literally every Wargamer feels when they jump into this hobby. So as a Wargamer, I feel like there's a lot to fear because when I first got into 40k, the first thing that I noticed, besides the awesome looking minis, was the price tag. Warhammer 40k is expensive, there's no doubt about that. You gotta have money to buy the models, the codex, the rulebook, paint, glue, clippers, brushes, terrain, the list goes on and on and on. However, every so often GW puts out a new edition, and that means that you gotta get the new rulebook, maybe a few new units, and to put it simply, you're never really done spending money on this hobby. Because if you wait a long time without getting anything new, you're gonna fall back on the rules, and the meta is just gonna shift so many times that maybe the models and the army you had, previous, isn't so good anymore. So, with that in mind, it really sucks when you've put all this time, energy, and money into your models, and then you get a little thought popping into your head, and that thought is the beginning, the origin of fear. And to me, that fear is that you don't like the way your army looks. Or worse, your army has fallen and they have shattered into a million pieces. That, I think, is the biggest fears when it comes to this war game of 40k. Having your miniatures become broken, or just not liking the outlook of your army. So for me, I was never good at painting. The whole painting side of the hobby, I kind of dreaded it because I didn't want to mess up my army. And it's like, well, I just paid for these models, these brushes, these paints, and my army looks like crap. So I didn't want that to happen, so because of that, I started with the Tau, and the Tau was the first army that I actually painted, built, converted, and had that was all 100% me. Unfortunately, I ended up selling it, and that's when regret kicked in, because ever since then, how do I put it? I just don't want to take that plunge again, because I see all these beautiful looking armies online. I see all these commission studios putting out really awesome badass product and minis, and it's just like, damn, well, I can't compete. So that thought in my head that I don't like my minis ended up becoming, I should go on eBay and look for already painted models. I should commission some studios to paint and do them for me, because obviously they're going to be way better than what I can do. So I'm going to give you a little short story, a little example of how my fear ended up becoming something good. So I have one model that is pretty much my favorite when it comes to my Chaos Space Marines. So my Chaos Space Marines are my own Chaos Warband that I created. They are the chaotic half of the 11th Legion. They are known as the Infernal Sons. And one of the models here is this awesome Demon Prince that I found on eBay. It's not a GW sculpt, I believe it's from Creature Caster, and just that Demon Prince looks so badass. The sculpt is huge, it's intimidating, and I just love it from head to toe. Creature Caster did an amazing job at making such an intimidating Demon Prince, which when you look at the GW model, it's not that intimidating. So the sculpt was amazing, and when it came to the paint job that this eBay seller was selling it at, the paint job was pretty good. I'd say definitely above tabletop standard. You could see some highlighting, the musculature, the bones, even the base was pretty dynamic. So I was like, yeah, I gotta get this model. So I bought it, it came in, luckily in one piece, it didn't break during shipping, and I just loved this model. And to make things better, freaking Demon Princes were pretty powerful, so I pretty much used it in all of my games. I created lore for it. Essentially, this Demon Prince is the second in command of the Infernal Sons, Varos of the Blood Flame. I could go into all its lore and whatnot, however, that's for a different video. continuing on, the more I started to shape and create my army for Chaos, I wanted it to be a mixture of blood, bone, machine, and ghost. That seems like a lot, and the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, so they're going to be playing using the rules for the Iron Warriors, because they're all about like demons. They got some pretty cool, badass relics, stratagems that revolve around demon engines, so I decided to go with that. Secondly, I do play Night Haunts, and Night Haunts are essentially the ghost army of Age of Sigmar. So after buying a bunch of models for my Night Haunts, I decided that I'm going to slowly piece them apart and use them as embellishment for my models of Chaos for 40k. This is when the fear set in, because I'm like, first of all, I could use this army when we play Age of Sigmar, so I kind of don't want to, piece it apart, break it apart, and use those pieces as conversion portions. But at the same time, we don't really play Age of Sigmar that much. So I bit my tongue and I took the plunge and I started converting. One of the main units that I converted, and I got a lot out of it, was none other than Nagash, a really expensive but a highly dynamic looking model. So basically I ended up clipping apart his sword, his back, and a bunch of like ghostly wraiths that are like floating around him. You can see in the image here what they look like. So yeah, Nagash got gutted slightly, but still nonetheless, I wanted to use those pieces as conversion works. So the thing that I most dreaded was the portion on repainting my Demon Prince. Because for one, it's red and it looks very corny. They're corn following, not corny. So it looks like a corn Demon Prince, and that's not what I wanted to showcase, because I want my army to look like not any of the 4 Chaos Gods are, being worshipped by them. Almost undivided. So I kind of wanted to cover up that black with like an ink looking substance. So I almost wanted to kind of color it black. Now, if you guys have worked with black in any type of models or painting or anything like that, black's not that easy. Because if you mess up, it's going to be really hard to correct that, because you got to put a bunch of coats, and yeah, so I was really hesitant. So again, my fear was telling me, leave the model as it is. You already love it. But then the other side of my brain was like, no, convert it. Make it look more like the army that you have in mind for Chaos. So I took some black paint and my paintbrush and I started. At first I was devastated because I didn't like the way it turned out. I thought, it's too black. It doesn't really give the impression of like having ink or some type of like black viscous fluid covering the Demon Prince. However, I kept telling myself I just gotta keep going, so I kept going, and looking at the pieces from Nagash that I could put on the base, I ended up going with a shoulder pad that Nagash had that worked perfect as a bone mask. So that's what I ended up doing, and the last little bit of embellishment was some ghostly wraiths, I guess you could call them, to just have them swirling around this demon. And this is the final outlook. So yeah, I think I ended up doing okay. I was super scared that I was gonna mess up my favorite model for my Chaos Army, but no, I mean, sometimes all it takes is just, pushing through, and even though it doesn't look what you want it to look like in the middle of the process, just know that at the end of it, you'll pretty much be satisfied with the results. A few important things is never glue anything on, always dry fit first, because you might find a different position that works. You might change your mind. With paint, that's kind of hard to do, because once you put that paint on the brush and the brush touches the model, You're gonna have to fix it if you don't like it. Or just strip the model and start anew. But again, depending on the material that the model is, sometimes stripping is not a very cool thing. Depending if you have like resin, plastic, any other material, metal. Sometimes the stripping agent will eat away at that material, so be very careful. Conversion is something that I've always loved. I did it with my 5th edition Tau. I think I'm going to be doing a lot more, so stay tuned, because I will be showing you a little bit more of my conversion process for my Inferno Sons. But yeah, I think that is every Wargamer's fear. Starting an army and either having it break, or you breaking it out of frustration because you've converted it, you've changed it, you're a bad painter, whatever. All these doubts in your mind is basically to blame. So let me know if that is your fear, or if you have another fear when it comes to this hobby of Warhammer 40k. Does the painting side scare you? Does the converting aspects scare you? Does the side of new editions coming out and the army that you put so much time, effort, and money into is being phased out? Does that scare you? Or is it just the price tag? Because I'm pretty sure the price tag can scare anybody. So that's all I've got for this episode of the 13 Days of Halloween. Be sure to hit that like button. Comment down below as to what other eerie episodes you want to see in this little mini-series. And stay subscribed, because we've got some more spooky episodes before we come to the grand finale on Halloween. As always, guys, I have been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I will be seeing you guys tomorrow. Peace.